Okay. Good morning, students. Welcome to the new session 2021. The session is, unfortunately, we are all suffering because the pandemic, COVID, and I hope you are all safe in your homes. But academics or learning is a continuous process, so we definitely make our effort to keep you updated and let the academic session begin. And part of social science, children, you know very well, we study democratic politics, we study history, we study geography, disaster management. These are the four components of social science. Democratic politics, in class 9th, you studied democratic politics part 1. This year, that is in class 10th, you are going to study democratic politics part 2. Democratic politics part 2 is an updated version compared to class 9th, because in class 9th you studied basics of democracy, how the democratic government works. So in class 10th we study further detail about the democratic setup. In democratic politics part 2 we have nearly 7 chapters. All these chapters deal with various aspects of democracy. In the chapter 1 of democratic politics for the class 10th, we'll start with the chapter power sharing. So you know very well, every government enjoys the power. Okay. If the government keeps power without distributing the power to any other organs, that means concentration of power, where the power is concentrated in a single hand. Instead, if the power is distributed, shared among various organs of the government, definitely that is called power sharing. So try to understand, the basic principle of democracy is decentralization of power. So centralization is nothing but controlling or keeping under single hand. The quite opposite of that is we are talking about decentralization. Hope power sharing is nothing but sharing of power by the government. In which form of government we are talking? Yes, that is in a democratic form of government. Okay, children, let us move to the topic. What are the key points we are going to study in this chapter? Okay. We are mainly concentrating two countries, that is, one is Sri Lanka, the second one is Belgium. And try to understand why these two countries are taken, because these two countries follow two different principles. Sri Lanka, an island, a country which is our neighboring nation, followed the principle of majoritarianism. Try to understand what I am saying, principle of majoritarianism. Belgium, a European country which followed the policy of accommodation. So we have taken these two countries as an example because these two countries followed a different method or adopted a different method to govern the citizens of their respective nations. Further, we are going to study what is a need or why the power sharing is important. That is called, what we call, power sharing is desirable. Once we understood why power sharing is important or desirable, then we will also come to know the various forms of power sharing. Power sharing is done in various levels. So children, try to remember two principles which I am talking. One is majoritarianism, second one is policy of accommodation. Remember, Sri Lanka, our neighboring nation, Belgium is a country in European continent. Can you tell me the capital cities of these two countries? Yes, Sri Lanka, okay, Belgium, definitely you guess. Okay, keep it ready, because in the next session I am going to ask. Now coming to the policy of Sri Lanka. In the previous slide I explained you, Sri Lanka followed the method of majoritarianism. Children, you know that after the election, which party forms the government? Yeah, the party which got majority. Majority means large number, single largest number. What? Okay. So same here in a demographic population of any country, there will be one particular community that will be a majority community and the rest are the minorities. Let us take the example of India. We have Hindu, Muslim, Christians, Jains, Buddhists, Parsis. These are all religious groups. Yes. When you take all these religious groups in India, definitely the Hindu, they are the majority. Nearly 79% of population are Hindus. Rest are other major communities, major religious groups. So, division of people or the percentage of people in India, that's purely on the, if you take in the religious lines, we can say Hinduism is a majority by the number. Try to understand what I am talking about majorities by number. Now, let us move to Sri Lankan issue. Sri Lanka, we have the community setup displayed here. Okay. The communities of Sri Lanka are called Sinhalese. If you remember, Buddhism is one of the religion which was spread in Sri Lanka and other countries like Indonesia, even in Japan and all. So, large number of people in Sri Lanka, they are Sinhalese, they follow Buddhism as their religion. So, what is their percentage is? 74. So, it is quite natural that 74 is the largest number if you take 100 as a base mark. So, naturally Sinhalese are the majority. Rest, we have the communities, that is the Tamil population. Sri Lankan Tamilians 13%, Indian Tamilians 5%. Together it is 18%, rest are Muslims. So, question is here, Tamilians who are there in Sri Lanka and the Muslims are Indian Muslims, you are talking about Muslims means Indian Muslims. So, these are the minority community in Sri Lanka. Now, try to understand, Sri Lanka followed which principle? Can you tell me? Yes, principle of majoritarianism. So, naturally, to which community Sri Lanka may be supported? Quite, yes, that is correct. So, Sri Lanka supported the Sinhali community, that is the largest or the majority. Let us move further. Okay, this is a map, okay, Sri Lankan map. You can see the shaded, dark shaded lines here, this side and all. These dark shaded lines are nothing but where 18%, can you remember which is that 18%? Yes, that is a Tamilian population. This is dark shaded places are the place where the Tamilian population they are settled down. Rest of the place in Sri Lanka, these are the Sinhalese. This is the northern part of Sri Lanka. Definitely, you know, this northern part of Sri Lanka is very close to Indian continent. Sorry, India. Now, this is northern part of Sri Lanka. Especially, there is a place called Jaffna. You may be read in the newspapers and all. Jaffna is a epicenter or the center of this the Tamil population. So, Tamil population who are settled down in certain areas of Sri Lanka, they are majority or minority? Yeah, they are the minority population. Let us see some other facts of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is, of course, you know Sri Lanka because we remember Ravan, we remember Ramayana. So, naturally Sri Lanka is a known country to us. Definitely, Sri Lanka, just like India, Sri Lanka was also a colonial country, a country which is ruled by the colonial masters. India got independence in 1947, Sri Lanka got independence in 1948. Sri Lanka got independence from the clutches of colonial power in the year 1948. If you remember, in India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, all these people, they formed a constitution through a committee called drafting committee as well as constituent assembly. Same way, Sri Lanka also adopted a constitution. So, constitution is a document which helps the country to run administration smoothly. So, Sri Lanka adopted an act that is in the year 1956, that is called Act of 1956. The Act of 1956, please remember why I am specifying. The Act of 1956 is a constitutional act or a law which declared supremacy of Sinhala community. So, constitution officially declared that Sinhala community is the supreme community. That means rest of the community. Can you tell me which is the rest of the community? Yes, Tamil and Indian Muslims. The rest of the communities is not so important. So, they declared the Sinhala community as an official or a superior community, and further this Act of 1956 favored Sinhala community in government jobs as well as admission to the university. Now imagine you are settled down in a place and suddenly one fine morning government says that you will not get a job or you cannot go to the universities, then how you feel? The same kind of alienation, feeling of alienation started. Can you tell me among which community? Yes, that is Tamilians. Further, the Act of which year? Yes, Act of 1956 further denied, not given the political rights to the Tamil speakers. Political rights. What is political rights? Power to right to contest for election, voting right, right to criticize the government, be a part of the government. These are all very important political rights. You know very well, if tomorrow if the price of petrol rises, you will shout a slogan. That is a part of right. Now imagine if fine morning, if the government says that you can't fight against the government, that's a denial of political right. So, for Tamilians, the political rights were denied in Sri Lanka. Now, as I said, already told you that this all resulted in alienation. Alienation is nothing but you feel that you don't belong to that place, even though you are from that place. This feeling of alienation definitely leads to further problem. Okay, imagine if somebody, you go your home, nobody speak to you or nobody shows your love and care, naturally you feel dejected. That is what we are talking about, alienation. So, Sri Lankan Tamilians felt they are started feeling alienation because government officially declared that you are not important. Who is more important is Sinhalese, they are the majority number. Now, imagine when you are got hurt, there is two possibility. One, either you remain silent or you react. Okay. So, most of the time, a large number of population start reacting. That's common human tendency. So, what happened now? Because of the principle of majoritarianism, the leftover population or the minority population, they started their own political parties. They started their movements and they started demanding for registration of their party. That is what we are talking about. They launched political parties. Now imagine in Sri Lanka, political parties are formed on the basis of language. Generally, political parties are based on the ideologies, but here it is purely on the basis of language. Why? Because they are not given importance. So, their main intention was to win the election and protect their language, nothing else. So, political parties were formed, and once the political parties are formed, they demanded for recognition of Tamil as official language. Which was official language? Language Sinhala. They said no, it is not Sinhala only, because in the northern part of Sri Lanka, large number of people are Tamilians are saying. So they said that we want Tamil as an official language. They demanded for official language as Tamil. Regional autonomy, this I told you, where large number of Tamil population were concentrated on northern. If you remember earlier map, this map, yes. So large number of Tamil population. If you see here this the map, this side and all we can see this is Sinhala population. But here large number of Tamil population. Naturally, even though they are the minorities here, but they are majority here. So they demanded that this particular area should be declared as Autonomous means independent. They say that you make separate country. Now imagine Sri Lanka is a small country geographically. In that also one particular portion they want that declare it as a separate country and give autonomy. Autonomy means rule by themselves. That is called autonomy. And equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity in what? In education, jobs and other aspects of socio-economic life. So the demand of Tamilians, try to sum up. One, they formed their own political parties. Point number one. Point number two, they demanded Tamil as should be the official language. Point number three, Jaffna or where the population of Tamil are in the large scale should be declared as independent. Autonomy as well as equality in political, economic, jobs, education, in all aspects. Consider us, that means Tamilians, also as equal with Sinhalese. Now, another little different one was that once this alienation feeling which I explained you, when this alienation feeling aggravated, one liberation group was started in Sri Lanka, that is called as LTTE, that is Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. So you see the name itself, the very purpose of this group was liberation. They are the liberation of what? Tamil. Eelam means group. So the very purpose of this LTTE was to liberate Tamilian population from the rest of the population in Sri Lanka. That is what we are talking about, formation of LTTE. And further, the sad part of this story was this Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam had an alienation. So this caused distrust. This is very important. When you stay in a country, you should feel comfortable. You should not feel that my neighbor is a different religion, I cannot sleep here. That means you are not safe in that country. Now, if there is a trust that you are very, very happy, you have a trust that nothing will happen to me, definitely rest assured many things. So in Sri Lanka, the distrust was started between majority community, that is we are talking about Sinhalese, and the minorities. Sri Lanka, the distrust was started. Naturally, distrust led to the civil war. You know, war means when we fighting with the enemy nation, that's a war. If war within the country is called civil war. The internal war, civil war is more dangerous because the government has to fight or kill its own population. That is not a good story. So there was a civil war broke out in Sri Lanka. This civil war led to several years killing of various social and political leaders, including one of the able Prime Minister, Rajiv Gandhi, was also assassinated by the LTTE troop. So the civil war caused a terrible setback for the social, cultural and economic life of Sri Lanka. So to sum up the majoritarian policy, I will sum up with 5 points. Majoritarianism means supporting majority population. Majority means by number. Sri Lanka followed majoritarianism principle. As a result, what happened? Sri Lanka suffered a civil war as well as socio-economic setback in the country. That what Sri Lankan government had. Okay. So children, we of course now we studied the principle of majoritarianism. Now the simple question is that India got independence in 1947. We adopted our constitution in 1950. As I mentioned, we have Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jain, Buddhist, Parsi. India is a country with a vast variety of religion. Now associate the principle of majoritarianism with India. Can you guess that what would have happened if India followed the principle of majoritarianism? Luckily or intentionally, our constitution makers kept this point in the mind so that they considered India is a secular country where let it be 1% population also safe in India. So that's why India is very safe. We are not seeing civil war in India. We are not seeing civil war, disasters, intolerance, or rather we are talking about alienation. We are not felt, because thanks to the constitution makers, because they felt that once you support a question of majority, you are definitely neglecting, underestimating a minority, which reverse in several ways, which we have seen: civil war, economic disaster, social disaster, cultural problems, assassination, political wars. All these things happens because of this issue. Okay. Thus, try to understand, majoritarianism is a principle which supports the majority community of a country. Majority, I said, majority in number, numerical majority. It may be religious, it may be a linguistic majority, okay. It may be a racial. Take for example South Africa. South Africa, majority population are white. They are the black. They are the racial majority. So majority may be any one of this. So this is what we are talking about, majoritarian principle. Thank you.